Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. As always, I'm joined by Jordan.
Jerrad, it is great to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm also joined by Dom. Hello?
Mr. Morgan, we gotta head into town and see about that bank. I can't, Jordan.
What about John Marston?
On a normal podcast, I don't think that impression would be too bad, Dom, but like Jordan's so good at them that like it makes both of us look inferior whenever we try it.
Damn.
Hey man, I know my skills and I know my weaknesses, and impressions isn't one of them.
That's some props.
Episode 155, I didn't say at the top of the show. Dom's back this week. Let's hop into what we've been playing. For me, there was one primary game and the one primary like non-game thing. So the non-game thing, I watched the new movie for Rocko's Modern Life that hit Netflix this week, or last week. Only 45 minutes, so it's weird that it constitutes as a movie, but you know, it's like a TV movie type thing. Special. Yeah, I mean it's longer than an episode would be, so I guess technically it's a special, but they like list it as a movie. I don't know. Either way, it's 45 minutes. Gotcha. I don't know how much you guys have heard about it or how much you guys like Rocko's Modern Life or whatever. But it's good. It's a very solid meta commentary on like fandoms. So this isn't spoiling anything. The show focuses on Rocko trying to get this TV show from his childhood remade and put back on TV. And he has to jump through all of these hoops to try to get it remade. And one of the funny things is when he finally greenlights it, instead of getting the original creator, they go to other people to create a new season of it. So it focuses on all of that. So it's very strongly tied into fandom, and you know, whenever you ask for something to be brought back, it's not going to be the same as it was when you were a kid or you were younger. And with some of that, you're going to get some positive things and some negative things with, you know, focusing so hard and wanting to bring back something for nostalgia's sake, right? Another surprising part about the special is it has a very well written, I mean, it's simplistic. Don't get me wrong, this isn't like a crazy narrative, but it has a really well written trans storyline in it, which threw me for a loop. I didn't expect the last place I expected to see a trans positive storyline that was well handled was going to be in a Rocko's Modern Life movie, you know what I mean, or a special. Right. So that was really cool. It's exactly what I expected, but I loved it.
Does the meta ever get to you guys? Because I feel like, especially with reboots these days, everything has to be meta. Everything has to have at least some level of meta-ness to it, right? Where it's like, Jerrad, you and I brought this up about comics recently, about how, because of how goofed up continuity is and how wacky this shit is at this point, they almost have to, and they do in comic, like reference, oh, well, there's 100 Spider-Man. I thought you knew that. Everybody knows there's 100 Spider-Man by now. It's like, well, if you're not a fucking ultra nerd, you might just think that there is a Spider-Man Peter Parker, right? So
yeah,
everything has to be meta in some sort, like not literally, you know what I'm saying? Not literally everything, but just so much has to have this kind of not wink at the camera, but just like it's almost like we can't just enjoy our entertainment. We have to think about it. We can't just have the surface level enjoyment anymore. They have to like, you know, talk to you about it without actually like I said, winking at the camera.
I think Rocko's Modern Life gets away with it because it is so over the top in its comedy and animation, right? Like, it's not trying to be serious, and it's more so poking fun at literally every, like, their explanation for the TV show, like the characters being gone for 20 years, is that they've been lost in space for 20 years. So when they come back, everything has evolved to the modern age, and they're trying to catch back up. And in this time, Rocko finds out that his favorite show was canceled, right? And the meta stuff, I agree with you that there is a tendency nowadays, because it's like, in order for something to be remade or be brought back, in order for it to feel as if it should be brought back, they have to have some type of meta commentary, right?
It's like justification.
Exactly. And with Rocko's, it's like, it's just so over the top and wacky and sometimes gross with some of the stuff they do. It's like, you can't take it seriously. So it's for this, the meta narrative is not necessarily like an overt message. It's so that way they can tell the story and it makes sense for these characters to be gone 20 years, you know. I'm really interested. As we're recording this on a Thursday, August 14th, the Invader, or 15th, the Invader Zim special is going to be coming on Netflix. So I'm really interested to see how that turns out, because
it's weird that they're just doing specials and not just like bringing the series back.
And I wonder if it's a green light type of thing, you know? These are kind of like the pilots to see if the audience is still there. Because I'm assuming this is Netflix fund, because there are partnerships with Nickelodeon, but it's Netflix funding it. So I wonder if it's like a partnership between them of, we're going to make these specials. If the audience numbers are there, Netflix is like, we'll green light it, right? Because Nickelodeon doesn't want to put up the money for these series and kind of test it, right? They don't want to take that risk, especially with the way, you know, traditional cable's dying and streaming services are picking up. I think Nickelodeon is a lot more tighter with their money. They, you know, a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, they let the creator of Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom go, Butch Hartman. So I think they're like kind of a little bit tighter on their money. So Nickelodeon's like, these people want these shows back. Let's have Netflix do some specials, see if they catch on. If they do, we'll partner with Netflix for a season or something. Who knows?
They just announced that merger or whatever.
The Viacom, yeah,
and CBS. So that's I think Nickelodeon's owned by Viacom, right?
Yeah,
Nickelodeon and MTV and a few others.
Yeah, Viacom's like,
that'd be interesting.
Viacom's the Disney no one talks about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not to Disney extent, but they own a lot of stuff.
You're talking about Viacom merging with CBS because Viacom's already gigantic, owning shit like Nickelodeon and Paramount and the like. So it's wild.
The other thing, I stuck to my promise, Jordan. You weren't here last week, Dom, obviously. I started Gears of War 4 last week, Dom, and I told Jordan on the podcast I would finish it by this time, and I did. So I finished Gears of War 4. Really enjoyed it. Last week I had finished the first 2 acts, and then this week I finished the last 3.
It's good, isn't it, man? Like, underrated. Like, it didn't get talked about enough. I stand by that.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid game. I really enjoyed my time. There was a couple of problems I had, very minor. One, I think, and this makes sense for the Coalition because obviously they're taking over for the franchise and they're in that weird space that 343 was with Halo 4, where you want to have stuff similar enough to where people don't feel like you're doing a disservice to the franchise, right? There are new developers coming in and they need to make sure that people understand they get what like Gears or Halo is about. I think that with Gears 5, what we've seen with the trailers, now that we've seen what that game's going to be, that's going to take the next leap for them being different, right? Even as subtle as them taking off of War from the game title. With this game, I think they did some new stuff that was really interesting, but it was still a little bogged down in the original trilogy, a little bit too much, but it didn't detract from my experience. I really enjoyed myself. The bike chase and the like Titanfall thing towards the end, Dom, those were really refreshing. I really love those. I actually wish there was maybe another one of those type of experiences some point in the game, because those two just shifted your expectations for a Gears game, and it really it broke up the monotony of all of the shooting, right? The one thing I will say, the killer of this game for me, and the reason I would say it's a good, great game and not like anything higher than that, is like Act 3 completely ruins the pacing of this game. So like Act 1 goes by at a reasonable pace, Act 2 goes by at a reasonable pace. Act 3 is longer than 1 and 2 combined plus. Like, it drags on and on. If you remember, like, Act 3 starts at the beginning of you leaving the farm, right, with Marcus, and it ends when you find him in the hive. So there's all of the, like, going through the city and discovering these new type of locusts, then finding the factory, then going into the factory, then going down the elevator. Like, there's a lot of gameplay in there. I would say Act 1 and 2 took me about 2.5, 3 hours. Act 3 on its own took me about 4.5 hours. And then 4 and 5 were about a little bit longer than 1 and 2. 3 just completely ruined the pacing of the game.
Did it feel padded?
No, it didn't feel padded. It just felt like they could have cut it up a different way. I think they could have spliced it in a certain way where all of them, Like, even if 1 was the shortest one and then you had 2, 3, 4 as, like, the meat of the game, I'm fine with that. Like, if the last chapter and the first chapter are the shortest chapters, that makes sense, right? It's just that
Or they could just split it into 2 and have 6 acts total.
Exactly, have more acts, right? It completely ruined the pacing of the entire game. But, to Dom's point, it's a really great game. I like it more than Halo 4. I enjoyed Halo 4, but in terms of like the start of a second trilogy for these two major Xbox franchises, I really enjoyed Gears of War 4. I like the new enemies. They're based on like a lot of the Locusts we've seen, but with some twists, like the Berserker. Now that they have like the crystals on him, Dom, and you have to like shoot their like pussy orange like weak points, was really cool. The thing I'm interested... Did you see the post-credit scene, Dom?
I don't think so.
So the post-credit scene, this isn't a huge spoiler, is the uncle who everyone thought was dead being alive.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He bursts out of the snatchers, what they call them. That's really funny, too, is like JD and all these guys making names for these new creatures, you know what I mean? And like Marcus is like, what the hell, you call it a snatcher? It's like, yeah, it snatched you up. The communication between the three, Kate, Dell, and JD, was really cool. I'm interested to see the explanation for the stuff we saw in Gears 5, Dom, where like JD's arm is apparently hurt, which I thought that was something that was going to happen in the narrative for Gears 4, but it never happened. If you remember in the Gears 5 trailer, he has this like holographic like machinery over his right arm, and it hurts him. So I don't know if he got like infected or something between the games. And he has like a completely shaved head, and he looks more like his dad. The one thing I will say that was really cool is towards the end of the game, Jordan, you're gonna call for help, and the assumption is that it's gonna be like a certain character, like it's gonna be Coltrane, or it's gonna be Baird, or it's gonna be somebody familiar, and it ends up actually being a couple of them, which is really cool. And they look different. Like Coltrane has hair now, and he's a little bit slimmer. He's not as like thick as he was. Baird doesn't have any hair. He has like a little goatee. He actually looks a little bit like Goldberg, which is pretty funny, the wrestler from WCW. But yeah, I enjoyed it, Dom. I'm excited for Gears 5. I enjoyed playing it. I'm glad I finally got to it. It wasn't even that long of a game. One thing I want to add too is they did something that I haven't seen in a game yet. Which is they added achievements for Gears 5. So they're called Road to Gears 5, and they're specific achievements to get people back in the game and playing in anticipation for Gears 5, which is pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. The bad thing about that is for achievement hunters, you can't unlock them after Gears 5 comes out. So that's the boo-boo part of it. Is like,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you have to do specific tasks before the game comes out. That being said, this isn't a game with like a set of 1,000 gamer score, and then they added these. This game has 4,000 gamer score, so they've added achievements with every piece of DLC. So having those tacked on to an already like insurmountable list of achievements doesn't like hurt me too bad. Like I'm not too irritated by it, but gonna be trying to get some of those achievements before the game comes out and fiddle away at some of the collectibles. But I had a blast with it, Dom. I should have played it sooner. When you played it, you obviously enjoyed it, so yeah, can't wait for 5. That's pretty much it for me.
Man, I'm pretty pumped for 5 too. Fuck.
Who is your favorite character out of the 3? JD, Kate, and Dell.
Oh, Kate, easy.
Kate? I like Dell the most. Because
Yeah,
like
he's
through the
cool
whole
too.
game,
Honestly, I couldn't hardly give a shit about JD, but I like the other characters.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, like, JD was a little bit whiny at times, and they wanted to ride him as, like, not necessarily an anti-Marcus Phoenix, but they wanted him to have a little bit more, like, personality than Marcus, but it ended up being he was just, like, a baby for the most part. Like, he complained so much, and he was so defensive. Yeah. Whereas, like, Kate was the naive one, and Dell was, like, the comedic relief. Like, I love that Dell started the game being in awe of Marcus Phoenix, and then by the end of it, Dell was, like, questioning everything Marcus said, which is really funny. He, like, got brave enough to, like, speak up. But, yeah, that's it for me. Dom, you had told us you'd been playing through Red Dead 2, right?
Red Dead Redemption 2. Yes. Pretty far along. And I said this to you guys in the chat a few days ago. I'm not even finished with the game. I'm in chapter 6, so I think I'm getting close to the end. But this is, I'm not gonna say hands down, but I think it beats out what I would say the second best would be The Last of Us for the best story or storytelling in a game that I've played. Excluding, I guess, some of like your walking simulator types, which I think is a little bit different. And why that's even compared to The Last of Us, it's even more impressive because that's at least a linear game, whereas this is, a giant open world game in a setting that I don't really, normally give two shits about. So it's incredibly impressive the way the story they're able to tell, and doing that in this giant world with all this other stuff going on. Well, that's also a little bit of like the one kind of like problem I have with the game is like I have no desire to go hunt, and go do some of the side stuff. Like I don't want to go play poker with some people any more than I have to because like I don't want to. I just want to. The main story is so good, and I'm so like, especially as it progressed, I'm just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it and more engaged. So, yeah, and the gameplay's, I said before, it's good enough, but man, I'm super excited to see how this game finishes and what happens. So, yeah, fucking Red Dead, man.
The cool thing with Rockstar too is that
it's good.
I think GTA tends to have good stories too, but the problem is that they're so like zany with their social commentary in those games that it can tend to feel a little ridiculous, right? Whereas with like Red Dead, it's like a historic kind of narrative where you're not relying so much on commenting on problems with society in the current like modern age, and you're just focusing on telling this character specific story. And obviously they're like a very talented studio with a lot of budget behind them, so they're able to make like these really beautiful games. I agree with you. Obviously it's so the weakness of the games are the gameplay, but like that narrative in Red Dead Redemption 2 is so good, and it kind of gets you anxious in a very good way. Of as you start to go down the home stretch of that game, you're like starting to worry about characters and you want to see it culminate in a really like good resolution to the whole thing. I love that game so much. That's why I hate when people are so quick to like shit on it, for lack of a better term, of like, oh yeah, like God of War by far was the best game of 2018, and Spider-Man was good, but then you have Red Dead. It's like Red Dead got reviewed the way it did for a reason. It's still a great game. I still hold to the fact, like, one of the criticisms that I hate about it is people will quickly say that the pacing is bad. I don't think the game has bad pacing. I think it has slow pacing, and in the current age we live in, people have really short attention spans, and I think a lot of people misconstrue slow pacing as bad pacing, and I don't think that's the case. If you're telling a narrative that requires slow pacing and it does that well, I think that's great. You know what I mean? It fits. So, yeah, I've always been bothered by that.
I'm with you. I would even double down on it, because what I just said about like how it's able to tell the story it tells in a giant open world, that kind of the pacing is instrumental to that. So like if shit was moving faster, you would quickly fall into the trap of like, and I got into it a little bit towards the end here, but you would quickly fall into the Fallout 4 of like, well, my son is missing, but I'm gonna go build a settlement.
Oh yeah.
So why in the fuck would you be doing that? Where like the main story quest, the pacing is pretty fast, but it keeps you away from everything else in the game. But I think that the pacing in this is like, it's what draws you in. Like everything is builds up slowly, and you engage with these characters. It's slowly. Yeah, you're right. I say slowly, but I couldn't mean that even slightly in a pejorative way. Like it's absolutely. I'd say the pacing is fucking flawless, frankly. And it's a long game, but that's what makes it good too. So.
And to your point with Fallout 4, as the game progresses with Fallout 4, the world doesn't really change in a way to make you want to pursue your main goal, right? In Red Dead 2, as the game goes along, the world will change in a way where you kind of have to focus on the storyline, because trying to do all of these other things in the open world becomes more difficult because of the things that unfold during the narrative of the game, with you being wanted and all that stuff. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
I mean, the other thing that pissed me off was like some of the missions that like, you're along for the ride. You don't get a lot of choice necessarily in this game, as far as the main missions, right? So like, I have to shoot up this whole fucking town, and I got all these bounties that like I gotta pay, and I feel like I was punished for playing the game properly. But it's not like I don't really mean that in a bad way necessarily, but it was just one of those things that I wasn't. It's kind of not normal for most games, but
yeah.
Honestly, I think the bounty system in that game is beyond fucked.
Yeah, it's interesting. I stay pretty squeaky clean as I can out there. I've definitely taken the good guy Arthur path as much as possible. But.
Just like the way that it works, the way that you pay off your debts or whatever, the way that like you can have a bounty on you, but then you can also be doing side quests for the sheriff of the town, and like it's
before we hop
one last thing was I gotta mention is Dark Knight trilogy in 4K. It's finally here. I finally balled up and got it because it was on sale. So I rewatched.
Everyone loses their minds.
Oh, and they're all really good movies, and they look great in 4K and with HDR. So end topic.
I was just gonna ask you before we hopped to what Jordan's been playing. Favorite character in the Vanderling gang outside of Arthur so far?
Man, Arthur's so good, so you're really crippling me there. But John Marston has grown on me. Last time you asked me that, I was like, he's kind of lame, but now he's grown on me a lot. But man, Dutch is so interesting, and I find him fascinating as hell. It initially appears very one-dimensional, but as the game progresses and as their luck turns a certain way and different things are happening, it's like he gets so fascinating to me. But that's where that was my initial gut feeling, and I'm gonna stick with that. So I'm going with Dutch.
I've wanted to do a spoiler cast for the game for so long. When you finish it, you want to do a spoiler cast?
Absolutely.
Okay, because there's some stuff I want to talk about in terms of what happens in the narrative that is really interesting. Anyways, Jordan, let us know what you've been doing this past week.
Real quick, I was going to ask, who is Dutch's right-hand man in the...
Jose Matthews?
Yeah, Hosea.
Yeah, so he's the older guy, right?
Yeah.
And my biggest complaint with that, playing the first game pretty soon, or pretty close to the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, is that it's the same voice actor as the guy in the first game that's like the traveling like fake medicine salesman.
Oh yeah, the old guy, the like diabetes testing supplies looking dude.
Yeah, he's like a charlatan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the exact same voice actor, and I'm like, it's weird to have John Marston specifically interacting with clearly like the most recognizable voice this guy has, interacting with the same character, or same voice actor, but it's totally different characters in two different games. Obviously, that's kind of a side complaint, but there's going to be people for the rest of eternity that are playing the Red Dead Redemption franchise. So going from 1 to 2, everyone's going to notice that, and I'm like, as big a budget as you guys are dealing with, I'm sure that guy's a great voice actor, but to use him as like main characters in the same franchise 2 times is weird, you know.
It's crazy the number of characters from the first game that don't have the same voice actor in the second one. Like Javier Escuela has a different voice actor. Not Bill. Bill has the same voice actor. There's a couple of them in the gang that are in the first one that have completely different voice actors. It's really weird.
Now, do you know whose voice actor is the same in both games, Jerrad? John Marston!
Yeah. Man, the guy I really hope that the guy who voices Arthur comes back in another like AAA game. I think he's like so good.
He's stupidly good, man. That role.
Yeah.
Oof.
He won the Game Award, remember, for the best performance. So like, yeah, it's phenomenal. Jordan, what have you been playing, watching, reading?
Yes. Been playing more Feth, as it's abbreviated online, which is Fire Emblem 3 Houses. 40 hours in at this point. I would definitely say I'm slowing down. What I need to do is kind of just just kind of push through the classroom setting, because at this point, 40 hours in, that isn't super exciting. And my characters are powerful enough that I don't necessarily need to be meticulously worrying about every single fucking social link and all that. So, we'll see if I decide to jump back and do the secret path that you and I talked about, Jerrad. But that we'll see how I'm feeling at the end of the game, I guess. So that's what I've been playing, and then continued watching Ghost in the Shell Arise, the OVA series. And yeah, I definitely think watching that in between seasons 1 and 2 of Standalone Complex, I definitely think that is my favorite of the 2 Ghost in the Shell series. Obviously, not necessarily ranking up against the movies, or the original movie in particular, but really enjoy Arise. I think Major Kusanagi looks a little wonky. Her character design may not be my favorite, but other than that, I think the series is fantastic. The music, shout the fuck out to that music, and the intro music in particular is really, really cool. So, watching that. Finished watching G Gundam, and it's a goofy 90s series that's very heavily deviates from Gundam, but I think has like some of the most fun and cool Gundam designs that I've seen. Obviously, I haven't seen all the Gundam series because there is a vast amount, but
that reminds me, sorry to interrupt you, Jordan. You saying Gundam just sparked something I wanted to tell you. Obviously, me and you build Gunpla in our spare time, right?
Yeah, baby.
I forgot to tell you, I got one of the recent models I got to build whenever I feel like doing it was the main robot or Gundam thing from Pacific Rim. I forget his name.
Oh, the first movie?
Yeah, the blue guy with the blue. Yeah.
Oh fuck! I wish I could remember the names. They actually have cool names in the Pacific Rim series. But yeah. So since you mentioned the models, I will say I have finished the first 2, in release chronology Gundam series. That being Mobile Suit Gundam and then Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. And I decided to get basically all the model kits except for color variations that were released for the first series. And obviously I'm not going to do that for every Gundam series. That would be utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about completing the set for G Gundam just because the fucking Gundams in this show are out of control cool. Like creative and just, they're very, like I said, kind of deviate from the Gundam norms, but they still have some of the conventions of Gundam builds. So, thinking about that for sure, Jerrad. Send me pics of the Pacific Rim model kit, though. Love to see that.
Like in box or after I build it?
Both, I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, you can just, whenever you build it, you can just include a picture of the box, I guess.
I just thought it would funny, send you a picture of it next to a banana for scale. Just a really...
Or just send me the picture of the plastic pieces still in the different configuration. So it's
that's funny.
Oh, that's cool. So you're just a bunch of random Legos. So yeah, G Gundam's good 90s anime fun. It's certainly not up there. Probably going to be up there with my favorite Gundam series because I'll tell you, boys, the Gundam shit really goes into it's about obviously mechs and giant robots fighting in space with lightsabers. Obviously awesome. But it's also a lot about war and how that affects human beings. Very much about that. That's like a through line in most of the series, even though a lot of them don't connect timeline-wise. So PTSD and stuff like that, the way people are dealing with real wars is an interesting aspect of that. So that's certainly not part of the multi-country fighting tournament Gundam series that I just watched, but fun nonetheless. It was the first Gundam series not in the main timeline. Interesting fact there. All the way in the 90s. So. Anyways, Last but not least, I want to give a shout out to the latest run of Wonder Woman that I was telling Jerrad about before the show, the comic book, I should say, which is written by G. Willow Wilson, and it is fantastic. I have enjoyed it very much. 58 through 76 just came out yesterday, and wow, man, it is freaking awesome. It is one of the things that I really enjoy about good solo series for comic book superheroes is diving into their lore specifically, like I was talking about Thor and his Norse mythology, or obviously Wonder Woman here having Greek mythology to dive into, and that's exactly what we've done. It doesn't feel way too far in that direction. There's still earthly connections. Steve Trevor's still around, and we're still in the realm of Earth reality plenty of the time, but it's still lots of cool Greek, Amazonian action, and gods and characters coming through. So really enjoyed that, and it's just a really well written story. As I was saying earlier, it is not necessarily trying to revolutionize the character in this giant way, which I feel like many comics are trying to do these days, which is not always what's best. And I think that it just tells a great story, which is something that I feel doesn't get focused on in entertainment in general these days, is just being a competent story that you're telling. And so I really appreciate that. So really enjoyed it.
Sounds interesting. Wonder Woman hasn't necessarily been like my favorite go-to for DC, but
that's why I caught up with all the rest of DC before Wonder Woman, you know.
Another thing, Dom, remember how we were talking about wanting you to check out Cowboy Bebop when you had a chance? Turns out that in anticipation of it coming to Netflix as a live-action series, apparently in the deal that got them like Evangelion and all of these other series, they got the rights to Cowboy Bebop anime, so it's going to be coming to Netflix. When it does, it'll be an easier way for you to watch it. So,
definitely check it out. That
HD, gorgeous remaster that they did. Rewatched it, and my God, you've got to watch Cowboy Bebop, whether or not you're into anime. I'm not just talking to you, Dom, just people in general. Cowboy Bebop is up there, man, with just entertainment properties.
Well, I just love that it's the type of thing where you can watch an episode and it is standalone in and of itself. It's so good.
You could really watch just about any episode, and you would probably, I would bet money on the fact that you would get some enjoyment out of it.
They're just so good, yeah. Like, it really wants, for me personally, I want like it doesn't have to be live action. It can be like, animated, but Batman or Nightwing or something series where it is the same thing, where it's like each episode is a standalone like case. That'd be really dope. Anyways, let's hop into the quickie news. We're going to get through it kind of quickly, as the name suggests. And because the topic of the show is going to be a little bit time consuming. Not too much. We'll see how far we can get in it. But in terms of quickie news, we got a couple of Xbox related things and something to do with Nintendo's new controller. So the first thing, head of Xbox, Matt Booty going to give it to you, confirms via an interview that the Outer Wilds sequel could likely be a console exclusive. So basically what he had mentioned, people were talking about, because obviously Outer World. Those two games, man. Why do they have to be named so closely?
Well, they come out within like 6 months of each other. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Outer Worlds is published by the Private Division, and it's coming to all consoles, right, and PC. Now that Obsidian's owned by Microsoft, people are wondering, well, if a sequel comes out, will it be console exclusive, will it not? And Matt Booty said that all of the studios they acquired, they want them to make games for their platforms, and though he didn't outright deny that it would come to other platforms for the sequel, he said basically with like a wink and a nod that if it does good enough, they want it to be another like pillar of Xbox's exclusive lineup. So there's that. Yeah. Not huge news, kind of something us three anticipated would likely be the case. So nothing too much of a shock there. Matt Booty just confirming what we all assumed. Next up, the Nintendo Switch SNES Bluetooth controller leaked. So it had a blueprint leak where it showed the serial number for the model, and it matches up with the Bluetooth NES controller that came out for the Switch and the Switch itself. So it's all but confirmed that this controller exists. So that's kind of not the news here. The other thing with this is the assumption that the Nintendo Online service has the NES games that come to it, right? That you can play as long as you're a member of their online service. Well, those came out around the same time that the NES Bluetooth controller came out. So what people are assuming is with this blueprint being leaked, that when this controller releases, we'll be getting the SNES games coming to the Switch.
See, I was always under the impression that it was going to be a mixture of the two from the start.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when they announced the online shit. I guess I was wrong.
The thing, too, is, first of all, the controller looks dope. I'll probably end up getting it because it's going to have a good D-pad. Like, one of my biggest complaints about Nintendo in general is, like, the Joy-Con D-pad is booty. The Pro Controller D-pad is okay, but it's still, like, it's nowhere near the Xbox or the PlayStation, in my opinion. But that SNES controller has a really nice D-pad. There's also there's that company that makes them. What is it? 18-bit dough, I think. They make really solid
8-bit dough.
8-bit dough. There
So
you go.
the thing is,
Like the like bone-shaped design.
Yeah. Well, they have they have some really cool colorways too. Like they have a Game Boy colorway. They have a SNES colorway. What were we gonna say, Dom?
that you're probably going to be better off just getting one of those, because it's going to be a third of the price of whatever Nintendo ends up charging for their version of it, and probably the same functionality.
I don't remember what it was specifically, but of course, when the NES controller came out, I remember there being some classic Nintendo bullshit about, like, it does this, but it can only do that. You know, it's like,
also, the NES controller sucks. I'm gonna go out on a hard line here and say that controller sucks.
Oh, just the original one in general.
Yeah, the form factor, the like rectangle, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
It's hard corners, like.
Yeah, the 8-bit one is $50. Obviously, we don't have a price one on the SNES one yet, but it'll likely be $60-$70. So you're probably right there, Dom. Some people
Plus, does that have analog sticks too?
Which one? The 8-bit one?
Yeah, because like that $50 8-bit one like has analog sticks, and I mean, obviously a regular SNES controller does not have analog sticks, right? So
yeah, the Nintendo one doesn't. It's just it's a SNES controller. Yeah, so you'll only probably want to play with select games, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, so hopefully, I hope this. Hopefully, I hope this controller comes out by the end of the year. If it has a decent price point, I might choose it over the 8-bit one, depending on like warranties and stuff. And if it's close, but knowing Nintendo, it'll probably have a Nintendo tax on it. Who knows? The last bit of quickie news here. Exactly. SNES drift. The last bit of news here isn't really news. It's more of an update. We've long talked about how Game Pass, or we've wondered at least, does Game Pass positively affect publishers and developers? And we've heard some cases here and there of people seeing good sales success. There was a roundup this last week from multiple game developers and publishers. There was a thread on Twitter, and they're basically talking about confirming the notion that Game Pass has helped them. So all of them stated that they saw sales growth since putting their games in the service. And there was 2 or 3 specific developers and publishers that said that their game sales quadrupled since putting it in Game Pass. Which is really cool. That's good for indie games and indie developers. We often talk about how we're the type of people who buy indie games and will play them, but the casual gamer is still the type of person that like buys Madden, Call of Duty, and like God of War, and that's it. And they really look at indie games in the same vein as we look at mobile games to some extent. And it seems like with Game Pass, they get to try out all of these indie games and they can buy them on their own, and we're seeing that turn into actual sales, right? So it's really cool to see, because when you see these streaming services, you worry how effective it'll be for these developers and publishers. We've seen with the music market how now in the all-streaming future for music, artists have a tougher time making money through streaming services because they get paid pennies on the dollar, right, for every stream of their music. Right. So it's cool now.
That's a good conversation, because like I'm kind of two minds, right? I have to understand the economics around it better, because I've discovered a lot of, staying on the music example, I guess, because it's a good parallel up probably. I've discovered a lot of bands and a lot of music I never would have even come close to discovering if it wasn't for Spotify, right?
Yeah.
And how easy and it's just streaming, you don't have to buy it, yada yada. But like you said, they don't really make dick for money on Spotify, so it's like, is that better or worse? It sounds like from their perspective it's worse, but I would like to think that the discoverability has a net positive impact. But I don't know.
And then there's a layer above that of like now with the streaming services being the key towards music, many bands and artists aren't making albums really anymore. They're making singles. So they're releasing singles periodically could lead towards tours a lot sooner in between, right? You don't have to wait for a new whole album to come out to tour. So then they make money. It's like it's a very interesting conversation of like the chicken and the egg and all that stuff. Yeah. But it's good to see Game Pass be having a positive mark on indie developers. Quadrupling your net earnings is pretty awesome, especially for smaller studios who don't make much at all, you know. We're not here talking about Activision quadrupling their earnings, because who cares about them? That's pretty much it, though, for the quickie news. So the topic, the reason I wanted to get to this a little bit quicker, we're going to do as many as we can, and I'll explain to you what we're doing. And then we'll pick back up either next week or another week when there's not a whole lot of news, because I eventually want to get through this list, but I'm not setting foot that we're going to complete all of these. Here's the thing. We're going to be answering these questions as quickly as possible, okay? You don't have to be like one-word answers, but we're going to keep a reasonably quick pace about this. If any of you who are listening watched, I think it was either the most recent Kind of Funny Gamecast, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, Tim Geddes brought up this list that this website did, levelskip.com. Levelskip.com did this list of the 50 video game questions you should ask your friends. It's kind of like icebreakers when you make new friends that play video games. I thought it'd be something interesting for us to do because there's a lot of cool questions in here. Like I said, rapid fire-ish. I'm going to ask the questions. Here's the way it works is I'll ask the question, I'll answer it first, and then either of you, whoever has your answer first, can go. First question here, number 1. What's your favorite game of all time? All three of us have answered this before. Time. Yep, Mass Effect 2 for me.
Witcher 3.
Exactly. That's an easy softball one.
What'd you say?
Witcher 3.
Jordan?
Witcher 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All RPGs, right? No, Ocarina is an RPG. Adventure?
Action game adventure.
Adventure.
Whatever you want to call it.
There's RPG elements in it, though, right?
Not really. I mean, I guess you get items that's how you progress. It's not really like levels.
Yeah, I've never played Ocarina, so.
Damn.
This one. What's a game you thought you'd like? The question says, what's a game you like? You thought you'd like but actually hated? Hate's a strong word for me personally. For this, I'll say, what's a game you thought you'd like but actually didn't? Breath of the Wild for me. It was a game I thought I was going to absolutely adore with my love for open world games, and I just didn't like it. Hated is too strong a word. I didn't hate that game, but that's why I changed it for me. You guys, if there was a game that you thought you'd like and you hated or just disliked?
All this talk about Anthem coming back has me utterly devastated, because as cautious as I was walking into it after Andromeda, I still had a ray of hope, and I was so saddened by the outcome of that game.
Dom? We know Jordan's answer, Anthem. That's a good choice.
I'm struggling to think of something off the top of my head, but the best thing I can get to is Persona 4, and it's not usually my type of game, but it's so universally praised, and like after like, I don't know, it was like 15 hours, I was just kind of like, I don't know, and just kind of fell off.
So not hated, but like disliked, right?
Yeah, so that's as good as I can get. So I wasn't like expecting to like love it as much as everyone, but I thought I could get into it, because a lot of people said like they weren't into RPGs, or you know, but this one was that good, and I don't know. Yeah, I did play for a long ass time though. That's a lot of hours.
You know what I've realized? You can find that with just about any single thing, where people will be like, dude, this is the best thing I've ever experienced. You have to experience this. And there will be people like, you know, I'm not usually into reading books, but I read this book. You got to read it because I had to get through it because it was so damn good, even though I don't even read books. And you read it and you're like, yeah, it was a pretty good book. It's like, certain things would just resonate with people so goddamn hard, I guess.
Yeah, and then it's the funny thing to that too is like if you're somebody who doesn't read books, then what's your baseline for a good book? You know what I mean? Because then there's that question of like,
I do find that when people are like, I don't watch movies, but you gotta watch this fucking movie, man. And I'm like, well, it has a 44% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey, Batman vs Superman is an okay movie.
I usually don't like chain myself to a Rotten Tomatoes score, but I don't know about this whole Amy Schumer thing you got going on here.
Next question. We got to keep trucking.
What is that? Sorry, I won't go into it.
Next question. This is similar but a little bit different. What's a really popular game everyone seems to love but you don't like? Fortnite. That one's an easy one for me.
Yeah, Fortnite. I'll take that, and I'll take GTA.
Yeah, I can say Breath of the Wild too, but for a different answer, I don't want to say the same thing twice.
Yeah, I will say
Minecraft.
Breath of the Wild 2. I do. Here's the thing, though. I like Breath of the Wild 2 a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't like it nearly as much as everybody else does. I think that people are way overblown on Breath of the Wild.
I think maybe you're a little bit. Obviously, Dom really loved it. I think you're a little bit higher on it than I am. I'm with you though. I don't actively dislike it, but didn't necessarily nowhere clear near the beer the.
Average guy.
Number 4. What's a game you didn't expect to enjoy but ended up liking? Ooh, this is a tough one. Whoever has their answer first, go ahead and say it. I'm gonna kind of talk here while I try to figure out my answer.
I'm gonna say strategy games because I've been getting obviously really into those the last couple of years, and definitely was not something that I played as a kid or got into any time before now. Really, I really just started playing them, and as soon as I started, I don't necessarily remember what the first couple ones would have been, but like turn-based strategy, as soon as I started with that, then I really got into it.
Ooh, so me, it would either be the Civ games. I don't remember which one I played first, or Jade Cocoon, which was a JRPG on the PS1.
Jade Cocoon.
Yeah, because I never played JRPGs. I didn't grow up playing them, so I was like, my mom picked it up for me at like a yard sale or something, because she always used to grab, whenever she was out and about, if she saw games that were like cheap, she'd pick them up for me because I love video games so much. You know what I mean?
What a sweetheart.
Dom, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I'm going to go on a bit of a journey here. So the year is 2011, right?
Oh.
I am... Shit, how old am I? 17?
4.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm 17 years old. Me and a good buddy of mine in high school are just neck deep in Skyrim. You know what I mean? This crazy giant RPG is just fun. It's accessible. It's
You gave your buddy a rim job? Neck deep? What did you...
No, we're neck deep in the game,
Jesus.
not each other. Damn it, Jordan. All right.
This is a sexual discovery? What?
Not in the slightest. It's a video game. Anyway, Skyrim is great. Like, we could go on about that for a while. But my buddy brings back this new game. He's like, yeah, it's kind of like Skyrim, but hard as all fucking hell.
Dark Souls.
From you guys' perspective right now, it's going to sound weird because you've only known me to love this series. But yeah, and it's this game called Dark Souls. And he's like, yeah, it's supposed to be so incredible, but it's crazy difficult. And I'm like, I said to him, like, why on earth would you ever put yourself through some shit like that? We play it for a little bit together.
Hey, that's a good example for me is Bloodborne then.
Yeah, exactly. I think this would probably be an answer for a lot of people that got into it. But yeah, he has the first copy, right, and gets a third of the way through and stalls out because it's just he's a fuck this, the usual story you hear. But I'm a little more like, you know what, man, just chill, just like I was kind of like, don't give up, like don't be a fucking.
Dom's like,
whatever,
dude, it's all good. I'm gonna beat this boss, no problem.
Yeah, more or less, but like seeing him kind of stall out, I was like, no, like I can do this, and so like that's it, and that's how it goes. And my obsession began and only got bigger with Dark Souls. So initially, I didn't think I could ever be into it, but here
is
I
that
am.
your favorite game series? I guess. Well, that's a question in this essay, or not essay, but this
list. Yeah. Okay, we're only on question 5. Let's try to get at least to 15 by the end of the show. So let's pick it up a little bit. What game have you spent the most amount of hours on? For me, probably Call of Duty Modern Warfare, more than likely,
Yeah.
or Madden, if you count all of them as like one game, but that's kind of cheating. So yeah, Call of Duty Modern
I guess
Warfare.
it'll be a multi-time answer here for me. That's also going to be Witcher 3.
Yeah, like, you can spend a lot of time in that game. This is a dumb question, but we'll ask it anyways. If you had to marry the last video game character you played, who would it be? It'd be JD Phoenix for me from Gears of War 4, I guess.
Be
Her name?
Arthur Morgan.
Her name is Galeen, and she is my created character in Fire Emblem Three Houses.
So only one of us
You
has
stay
our...
within your sexuality.
Exactly, our real-life sexuality matchup.
Yeah.
Also, I think both of you landed way better than I did, because JD's whiny. I don't want to be married to that dude.
Good lord.
Let's see, next up. If you had to live in the world of the last game you played, what world would it be? For me, it'd be Sarah, the world of Gears of War. That'd be awful.
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't think I could stand to look at the fucking textures in the world of Fire Emblem for my entire life. I just couldn't fucking do it.
Dom has it best. He's in practically our world. You know what I mean?
I mean, it would, at least it looks beautiful compared to Fire Emblem and the textures and such. But I don't know. That's a rough and tumble ass place. But yeah, I guess I have it best.
You're also white, so it helped too. If you were a minority, going back to that point, it might be a little bit tougher.
Very true.
8. Have you ever had a crush on a video game character? Yes. Multiple Mass Effect characters for me. Sadie Adler from Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the more recent ones.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's...
I've definitely looked at females in, anime, video games, whatever, that are animated and been like, oh, they're cute or whatever. Never a crush except for one. And so there's a technicality here, because there is a Legend of Korra game, and the one animated character I've ever had a crush on is Korra herself, the Avatar.
To that point, when I was a kid, I used to have a huge crush on Lolo Bunny, and she was probably in a video game, so...
Damn, bro.
Space Jam, dude. Space Jam.
I'm trying to think back to like
anybody
back to like PS2 era.
If you want to jam.
There has to be somebody. Some.
Yeah, because that was about that age too, for me. Right, it was PS2 era. I want to say like there was a game called Splashdown. It was basically like you race jet skis, and I feel like some of the characters in there I was probably like,
100%, yeah. Dead or Alive.
Like
Dom playing Dead or Alive.
Yeah. Like a 9-year-old boy would type of thing. But
yeah.
Man, I'm sure that there were specific ones too that I can't remember the names of. But...
So not necessarily crush. So this could be easier for you. What's the most recent video game character you thought was like attractive? So you didn't necessarily have a crush on them, but.
What games have I played?
Horizon Zero Dawn girl. What's her name?
Okay. Shit, how did I forget that? Absolutely, hands down. Never mind. That's the number one answer. Aloy.
Yeah, Aloy.
Shit. My bad, guys. Yep, that's the answer.
Next up, what was the first game you ever remember playing? The original Mario Brothers.
The original or Super Mario Brothers?
No, like the OG. We had a Dairy Queen in our town that had like the original arcade cabinet. Yeah.
So wow, your OG is fuck, I guess. Because I was going to say same thing, because I thought you were actually talking about NES Super Mario Bros., which is really what everybody knows as Mario Bros. Like, most people have not played that arcade game. I have not played that arcade game. So the old...
Dude, I remember just going and getting, like the dipped cones that they had.
The dipped cones.
And then playing OG Mario, and then I eventually played obviously Super Mario Brothers. But yeah, that was the first one.
Sure.
Dom?
Super Mario 64. Got that along with everyone's N64 purchase as a launch title. So
I would say majority of our generation started on some Mario game.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be. Yeah. Next up, let's see. Question 10.
God! Before you continue. Just imagine in a decade the answers to that question are going to be like fucking Candy Crush or
Minecraft and Minecraft, yeah.
Phone games, right? Like
next one. Have you ever pretended to be sick to get out of something so you could play a game? High School Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Pokemon
many times.
Ruby version.
Ooh, Pokemon's a good one too.
My friend let me borrow it and I was sick the next day.
11. What game did you last complete? Gears of War 4 for me. That was an easy one.
Sekiro.
Your answer might be hard, Jordan, because it's been a while, right? Because obviously, nothing wrong with it, but you're in this new era of
it's
ditching something if you're
totally
into
right. I do. I have been
Dine and ditch.
Yeah, kind of a dine and dash system. I'm just kind of jumping in and enjoying things as I do, and then whenever I'm finished with it, I'm finished with it. So, shit, I don't even know if I can remember, to be quite honest with you.
Did you complete God of War or Spider-Man or?
Oh, absolutely. There was stuff last year. I'm just not sure about this year.
Ooh, yeah, I'm trying to think of the games. Did you beat
Hollow
Celeste?
Knight. Celeste.
I'm trying to think of games that came out this year. You didn't play Resident Evil 2 remake.
I didn't finish.
Sorry, didn't finish. You didn't
Kingdom
finish.
Hearts.
You didn't finish Sekiro. Yeah, you finished Kingdom Hearts, didn't you?
I did not. I got so angry at that game that I was like, at the end even. That's the thing is, I was at the end of the game and I was like, fuck you.
Well, and technically,
You didn't miss anything.
complete to you could be different than somebody else. Complete to you means you got your satisfaction or time with it, right?
That's the thing that's the reason I've stopped rolling credits on games, is because I don't care about beating them, and as far as finishing them, I'm like, I'm getting my enjoyment out of it, and if I'm pushing myself to finish it, then my enjoyment is actually going down. So I'd rather just quit while I'm ahead.
Yeah. Okay, that was question 11. We're going to get to question 20 before we end. We got about 5 minutes, so let's power through here. Number 12, what game are you playing right now? Gears of War 4, I know I just finished it, but that's like the game I can name, so... I guess Madden 20. I'll say Madden 20, so it's a game I'm actively playing. Red Dead 2 and obviously Fire Emblem, right? 13, what game do you want to play next? So I'm going to caveat this question. A game that hasn't come out yet. Control, for me.
There we go, baby.
Yeah.
You stole
Gears
the answer
5.
right out from under me.
Gears 5, hell yeah.
Control, motherfucker!
Gears 5 would be there for me too, Dom, but technically Control comes out before, so like I had to pick Control since it's the next one up. Let's see here. Question 14. In your opinion, what is the best game console? In your opinion. So this isn't factual.
Ever?
This is... Yeah. So this is subjective. Best video game console, I would say the Xbox 360 for me.
I guess PS4.
The reason I would say 360 is because it gave me Mass Effect 2, Bioshock, and Modern Warfare, and those are like 3 of my favorite games. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's hardly a wrong answer.
Give a shout out to the PSP, which is my favorite handheld console. I do consider them different, even though we have a hybrid and Switch. But as far as best console, it is such a hard toss-up between all of the different PlayStations for me. But I think... Whew, boy, it's so hard, man. I think PS3 and 4 are just a tiny bit better than 2, and so I'll say 4.
Yeah, it's a tough... I mean, you can make a case for a number of them, so... number 15.
Unless you're saying Nintendo 64. Not that anyone would ever answer that way, right, Jared?
Dude, that's on my list for sure.
There's a good number of solid games, but in terms of catalog, it just doesn't have what a lot of other consoles have.
Dude, there's like... Let's say someone might have mentioned that on the Kind of Funny Gamescast as their favorite console. I just can't understand how you could ever argue that as an actual thing.
Yeah.
It's beyond my imagination.
We'll do it one day.
Number 15, are PC gamers really superior to console players? They have the tools to be, but I wouldn't say they outright are. That'd be my answer.
Wait, like the gamers themselves?
Yeah.
Wait,
It's a dumb question. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
this is a ridiculous
that's weird.
question, Pass.
Exactly.
Like some humans are superior? What?
Well, just saying, because PC gamers are up their own ass. Number 16, some of them. I'm not generalizing. Number 16, what's your opinion on Fortnite? It's a phenomenon. I don't enjoy playing it.
I have no opinion on Fortnite.
I think it's got a cute and colorful art style, which makes it clear why it's been such a phenomenon once they copy and pasted the fucking Battle Royale.
And then they copy and pasted that dog head. Oh boy, that whole controversy this week. Number 17, have you ever watched a Twitch stream? Yes.
Yeah.
Not fully.
But
Not for more than a few minutes.
you watched it.
You've watched a Twitch stream, Dom.
I guess.
18,
Briefly,
have you ever streamed yourself on Twitch or YouTube? Yes.
No.
No.
19, have you ever used a walkthrough? Yes.
course.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm
No
not a
shame
PC
here.
gamer, so
Okay, we're on question 20. We're gonna get to 25 just so we can say we did half. So let's power through. What's the best weapon you've ever used in a game? The M16 in Modern Warfare or the Spartan Laser in Halo are my two favorites.
Jeez.
The Leviathan Axe in God of
VR in
War.
Halo.
The Leviathan Axe in God of War is pretty good too.
Yeah, that's a good one. The plasma, what do they call it? The ray gun in like Nazi Zombies. That thing was awesome.
Ooh, that's a good choice too. Yeah.
You know what? I don't know that I can answer this confidently, so since you said the word plasma, Dom, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my favorite series of all time, Dead Space, and say the plasma cutter.
Ooh, another good choice.
Great pick.
I'll add one more. The original sawed off from Gears of War, Dom, the one that like eliminates people when you're like right next to them. Oh, it's so good.
Energy sword, Halo, like.
Energy sword's good too. Yeah. A lot of good choices, a lot of good weapons. The BFG from Doom. Number 21. Have you ever had to stop playing a game because it was too scary? No.
No.
That's not me like
You know, bitch ass motherfucker.
manling, like out manling. It's never happened. 22. Has a game storyline ever made you cry? Yes. Most recently, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, Last of Us.
Ooh,
So
good one.
interesting that you say that. I've talked about this on the show. Never really cried from a video game, except a video game trailer for a game that I haven't played yet, Dom, which is The Last of Us Part 2.
Nice.
Ooh,
Nice. I
good
like
call. I cried for that
For
trailer.
all the fucking bullshit of them PlayStation setting up their E3 presentation in that dumbass fake church that they made to look like The Last of Us, for all that bullshit, once they got into the actual trailer, the way it transitions from the happy part to the not so happy part, and just the whole thing that they do with it is just magnificent.
The best trailer for the worst game that made me cry award goes to Dead Island. That trailer is pretty sad too. 20. We have 3 questions left. What's your favorite fighting class? Fighting is a weird way to put this. I'm just gonna say, what's your favorite RPG class? Warrior, mage, or rogue? I would say warrior. I tend to go for like the big, like melee, take a shot kind of character.
Mage.
I like rogues usually.
Stealth and magic. We're all different. We'd make a perfect pairing for like an MMO. I'll be the warrior class, mage, and rogue. Or as
your party.
Or as some people say, Rouge. I'm gonna play Rouge. Man, speaking, we mentioned kind of
different words.
We mentioned kind of funny earlier. Tim Geddes pronounced paladin in a way I've never heard somebody pronounce paladin before.
What? How?
He said it and it sounded like Paula Deen, like the cook, the racist like chef lady.
Paladin.
And
the racist chef lady.
The funniest thing is Greg totally did the office stare to the camera when he did it. Like he just looked at the camera. So funny. Anyways, last 2 questions. What's your favorite game genre? I would say it's a mix between FPS and RPG. Just generally those 2 genres. It's tough though.
I'd say like Western RPG.
Action
like
adventure too is like a good broad category. Jordan?
I guess, yeah, you could just say RPG, since it's pretty general and widespread at this point.
I'm surprised you wouldn't go FPS, Dom. Would that be number 2, or at
That'd be
least be in the
next, I
top 3? Yeah. Last question. This one's easy. I already know both of your answers. Do you prefer multiplayer or solo games? Both of you are solo, right?
Solo?
For me,
Solo.
I would say as I've aged, solo more. I was definitely more of a multiplayer gamer growing up.
Yeah.
So we're going to save the other 25 questions for the next time we want to do it. This week there wasn't a huge, interesting topic to discuss, so I thought this would be fun. So next time this happens, could be next week, could be a couple weeks from now, we'll hop back in. I'll definitely make sure it's a week when all 3 of us are here, because that's what makes it most interesting. In terms of...
I gotta say, I'm down to do the next 25. I don't remember what website it was. It doesn't sound like a super legit ass one, but I think a lot of those questions are ultra fucking lame.
Okay.
Have you have you ever watched a Twitch stream?
Well, I would. You guys don't really watch Twitch, right?
Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's just like random ones. I was like, why are they doing this on Kind of Funny? I'm bored as fuck. These questions are stupid. And I didn't want to be a bummer when we did our thing. I just wanted to answer them and have fun. But like, now doing them again, I'm like, who wrote this? Why are you asking me these questions? Have you ever played a third-person game? Yes. Sure.
Okay, well, we won't do it next time then. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to the show. Let's hop into what we're going to be playing. Control's been out for a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to think of what I'm going to be playing. Probably just Madden 20. I don't know if I'm going to hop into something before Control, because I don't want to get caught in the middle. Might just achievement hunting Gears of War 4, more than likely. And then Good Boys comes out this weekend, so I'm going to try to catch that in the theaters. That was a movie we had talked about last week, Jordan, with Jacob Tremblay, I believe the actor's name is. He's the boy from Room and the Predator reboot, whatever it was.
Tremblay.
It's pretty much it for me. What are you guys going to be playing? More Red Dead, I assume, Dom?
Red Dead.
Roy Doyd.
Jordan?
Have you finished the entire trilogy of Dark Knight, Tom?
Yes. Yep.
Nice.
Rises held up
just
better
say-
than I thought.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. It's a lot better than people give it credit for. Perhaps he's wondering why you would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane. I'll just say, Jerrad, I wasn't trying to, bust your balls too hard there or anything. I think that you make way better games, personally, than whoever this...
Yeah, I like when you bring up the games,
We'll meet in the middle. Next time we do
it,
it, I'll look over their 25 questions.
Cross off the dumb ones.
And I'll replace them with some of my own.
Just like, Jesus, bro, come on.
I hear you.
If I asked someone that, if someone was like, do you ever play games with a controller, Jordan, trying to break the ice with me, I'd be like, bro, can we just talk about games? Could you stop this bullshit?
Yeah, I get you.
I appreciate this. What it's trying to do.
Games.
Yeah, I'll go through the other 25 whenever I get a chance, and I'll replace the generic ones, and I'll make it a little bit more interesting. I hear you.
Word. There you go. Yeah, give me some of that classic Jerrad spice, if you would.
That chef spice.
Magnifico. So what will I be doing here?
Levelskip.com is not a sponsor of the podcast, as you can clearly tell, by the way.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. When Tim Getty said that on Kind of Funny, I was like, you were on what website? I feel like they went on Internet Explorers to, what's the clickbait site that they go to?
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about? Like, they found it off of there, and then he was like, oh, I'll use this on Gamecast. That's what it felt like. Anyways, this upcoming week, Control's still, 10 days out? 2 weeks out?
27th, I believe, so 12 days-ish.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's not going to be this cycle. But getting pumped on that, man.
Is that a Game Pass joint?
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that. Never
Support the developer, Dom. Gosh.
If they were still in partnership with Microsoft, it would have been like Quantum Break would have probably been if Game Pass was around then.
Game Pass clearly is supporting developers that you have previously stated, quadrupling their sales and such.
Yeah.
So continuing on with Ghost in the Shell rewatch, loving it. It's got to be the best cyberpunk anime of all time. I mean, there is actually a lot of great cyberpunk anime. Some people would say that Akira is better than Ghost in the Shell, or maybe Appleseed, but I would say not quite. Bucko. And let's see, I think it's about time to finish up at least my first campaign run through of Fire Emblem, so hopefully we'll be polishing that one off. And feel like there was something else. Oh, shout out, I reread Dark Knight Returns and watched the 2-part animated film that they did for that one. And I should say that they definitely did a good job of, tribute to that original comic. I will say that they handled the news. Jared, have you read Dark Knight Returns?
No,
Don't
it's
spoil
on
it for me,
my
though.
to-read list.
Yeah, so, it's considered, it's written by Frank Miller, considered, one of the greatest Batman stories of all time by many. And is certainly from the 80s and is certainly part of why we see Batman as so dark and gritty today, part of that transition. I will say that the comic has a little too, for me, it has a little too much of the newscasters, talking heads, going back and forth. And I think in the movie, I just want to give them a little tip of the cap because they include that in there while also handling it really well and not making it quite as kind of boring as it is in the comics, because it's very dry in between these awesome Batman scenes. So, but yeah, obviously enjoyed the comic nonetheless. It is one of the classics. So just give a little shout out to that. And since we're talking about upcoming stuff and comic book characters, Jared, I just found out with this week's comic releases that the Legion of Superheroes is coming back in DC Comics, and I don't know if you're a fan of them, but I sure am, and I'm glad to see them return.
Yeah, not too familiar. To be quite honest.
Futuristic superheroes.
Yeah, it seems like a deeper cut for the DC side. Like I enjoy both, but we've talked about this before. I'm more of a Marvel guy. Hashtag.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a group that I'm personally not familiar, but I'll check it out and see if it interests me or not. I'll give it a try.
Sure.
That's it for episode 155 of the Controlled Interest Gamecast. If you guys can, please follow us on Twitter at CTRLINT. It's Controlled Interest abbreviated. You can follow me at Jerrad_. You can follow Dom at DomZorios, and you can follow Jordan at Melomotus. On iTunes, if you give us a follow, review us there. It helps us move up in the algorithm. As always, the dreaded algorithm. On YouTube, search Controlled Interest.
The algorithm.
You can subscribe to our channel there, leave a like on our videos, and hit the bell notification. It'll notify you whenever we upload the weekly podcast. They usually go up Sunday, but you never know, you might miss it, and YouTube sub boxes can be a little fickle at times. Thank you guys for listening.
The algorithm.
We'll be back next time. Have a good one. Bye.